just yesterday.
Case 2, Darrell Harris, profiled, as seen in this video, July 17th, 2013.
Yeah, see, what's wrong with it? There's no such thing as an improper way. I know the law. I know the law. I know the law. What's the problem? You give me a ticket? You need my license registration? To profile, you use the seatbelt as a reason to profile.
Take out your keys.
Yeah, you can record for what? Nah. I don't feel safe right now. Do you want me to step out the car? Do you want me to step out the car? I'll step out the car. Call the police, man. What do you call the supervisor? I'm going to do shit. This is getting uploaded to the internet right now. Yeah?
And we are two law-abiding citizens that we're getting targeted, and I don't know why.
Just 24 hours later, Bernardus Ruiz played a leading role in the police killing unarmed Tyrone West. Case number 3, the murder of Tyrone West, July 18th, 2013.
My brother Tyrone West was brutally murdered on July 18th, 2013.
In both of these cases, when you look at the pleadings and the harsh language of these officers that have been quoted to me by reliable witnesses, the N-word.
And Killer Ruiz and Killer Chapman and the rest of those 11 and 15 killers, including David Lewis, took something from my family that they can never give us again. And that was my brother Tyrone West, one unarmed man who was brutally murdered, beat to death in broad daylight.
Mic check, mic check. This is West Wednesday, number 398. We had a bit of a problem last week. We miscounted. And so this is week 398, for sure. We are here to fight for justice for Tyrone West and justice for all victims of police violence. Mic check, mic check.
Mic check.
Mike check.
Mic check, can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Yes, we can.
All right. So again, thank you, and I apologize last week for having a miscount for saying 398. There's been a whole lot that's going on. But as you can see in that video, real live footage, that Ruiz, Officer Ruiz, or Sergeant Ruiz, is still currently working for Baltimore City Police Department. So I just wanted to let you guys know that this is insanity. Like, we keep doing the same things and expecting change. Like, nothing's changing. It's just the names are even really sad. Like, right now, Marilyn Mosley is not doing anything to hold anybody accountable that was responsible for my brother's brutal murder. Like, that is utterly ridiculous. We know that there's no sacrifice limit in murder. So why is Ruiz and all 11 and 15 killers, held accountable? It's just really sad. And we just did some powerful events, back-to-back events. We just last week we were in Annapolis, where we were speaking out about them watering down the Officer Bill of Rights, which I call the Killer Rights. They gutted it completely out, and we're supposed to accept this foolishness. And today, if I'm not mistaken, I was on Ted's page from the Real News, and I saw, I don't know if it was old, but I thought it was live video footage, that the FOP president and all of the different officers and things like that were actually in the night out. And I thought that was really interesting as how, like, no matter how much they kill us, they still want these protections, and they are protected. While they're serving us death, while they're serving us brutality and harm, they are protected. We are the ones that are not. And it's just really sad and disgusting. It's just, it's reality, but nobody should have to fight nothing for 398 weeks, and you still won't get any results. We get slim results. Like every now and then we get like a little, I guess, win or real whatever. But nothing big. Because to me, the biggest win will be seeing those killer cops and cell blocks. Anything in between that is to me is like mile of me. It's really sad. You know, we spoke out and thank goodness the West Coalition as well as other coalition groups, we were able to secure um, a bill where though people get their settlements and they can actually speak out. But we still don't know how much they can say or what's what. It's always the Doug and Pony show. It's always that thin line between right and wrong. And it's just sad, like, why is it a line? Right is right and wrong is wrong. And it's like they're trying to okay the wrongs and make it right. It's not right. It is not right for someone to be murdered, beat down, by people that's supposed to serve and protect. It's not right. This is they're doing absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, I'm studying losing loved ones around me that was trying to fight and hold people accountable for my brother, and now my mind is just gone because recently on January the 20th, my dear cousin, another man in my family that raised me, same house type of thing, watched big brother, everything, you hear me, was actually murdered January the 20th, January the 20th of this year, murdered on a West Wednesday morning at 12:19 to be exact, and my family doesn't have any answers about Tavon Anderson. We know that he wasn't in the streets. We know this, and then I'm just getting really sad and sicker every time I turn on what I call the blues, not the news, because it always makes you sad. It always makes me disgusted. I never watch the news and just get excited. Like I always, only time and the sad part, I don't like to watch it, but I have to watch it because you never know what you're going to see. It's just sad. It's like one of those things. Like I'm dreading it, but I wish it would become a day that I would get a thrill out of watching the news, that they would report accurately stuff that's going on in it. Because right now, to me, we have serial killers in our neighborhood. I know that some of this stuff is community violence. I'm not saying everybody, or every time somebody gets killed, but we're looking at teenagers getting murdered. Like in a matter of weeks, we got so many teenagers that are murdered. Like it's just sad, and I just feel like, and I don't care how crazy I sound, I feel like it's a serial killer purging. And the saddest part, they're killing us and they're using our organs. Because if you look at organs harvesting and things of that nature, it's sad that we're worth more when we are dead and gone than when we are alive working out here in a capitalist system, a society where we just basically slave, go to work every single day, put in hours to take care of our families and things like that. But then, God forbid, you die or somebody in your transplant or something like that. Your heart is worth $500,000. Your eyeballs is worth 350,000. Like this stuff is real. This stuff is real. You can't make this stuff up. And then I just recently saw on the blues that again, it was a rapper, a Baltimore rapper. I can't remember his name, but he is saying that he was a victim of the gun trace task force, and he's now suing them. He said Detective Jenkins actually planted drugs on him. And my thing is, when you know that it is dirty to the core, it's just sad nobody's doing anything. Nobody from the commissioner, nobody's doing nothing to fix anything. And then meanwhile, we look at Keith Davis Jr., who's still suffering in a jail cell where officers should be that did that heinous attack with him, almost killed him, the first man gunned down after Freddie Gray. While we were in the uprising thinking like, okay, enough's enough, at least they're gonna stop. No, they continue. Keith Davis Jr. was the first man gunned down. Like, so I mean, enough is enough. And speaking of enough is enough, at exactly 7:30, we're gonna switch over from our network and we're gonna join my brother Bobby. He's gonna have highlight myself as well as two of the queens that I've met. Now I'm not honored to meet anybody through this fight. I'm gonna be on there with Darlene, as we all know. I call her my warrior mom. She's so beautiful inside and out. And I've been seeing her all this week, all last week, things like that. She'll be on there too, as well as Antoine Black's sister. It's just sad, like enough has been enough. Like at what point do we get serious enough to say, you know what, we gonna shut it completely down, like no more of our blood. Like how many more bodies in Baltimore City gotta hit this ground before we say enough is enough. And I don't want to hear about police brutality over here in the community. It's all tied in. It's tied in together. Even with, and I'm sick of them talking about the schools, the way the schools are failing us like this just up and happened. This been going on for decades. So with Fox 45 with, reporting it and all of that stuff, yeah, they're reporting it, they're putting out there, but this been going on. This ain't nothing new. Especially when you talk about our children. Like really enough is enough. Like I'm tired of being tired, y'all. I'm tired of being tired. But I did want to give a shout out to the West Coalition and all the coalitions, the different groups that have been standing up and fighting back. Like we did a real good caravan this weekend on Saturday, a speak out that was really great. Shout out to Analysis. That's the uncle of Jarrell. He did a very powerful poem. He did two poems that he wrote. One was for nephew, and then another one he was tying everything that with all this corruption and everything together. Also, everybody that came down to speak, Mara, everybody, my sister Tracy, from Angel, and to everybody. There was a lot of family members that wanted to come, but they just couldn't make it because of the schedule, and it's just so much. It's just too much. Like, at what point do like we don't get a break from this stuff? And that's the saddest part. We don't get to sleep at night. Like while you guys are sleeping, meanwhile, it's nights where we have restless nights where as though we're up all hours of the night, crying our eyeballs out, getting mad, getting upset, thinking of ways we can fight this, and nothing changes. And then we wake back up, and then we're able to be blessed. And don't get me wrong, life is a blessing because I don't want to keep losing loved ones and then not spending time with them, and lifting them up while they're here. And there's something so sad and horrible, a tragedy happened, and now they're gone, and now you can no longer pick up that phone and say, I love you. You can no longer get encouragement from them. It's just really sad. So I'm just asking everybody to keep our families in prayer and whatever you can do as a human being. I don't care what religion you are part of, even if you don't have a religion or you do, whatever you can do to help the victims is a plus because guess what? My sister Tracy couldn't have said it no better. After they finish with us, who do you think they're going to come for next? After they finish with the black and brown people, who are they going to come to next? It's almost like a stray dog. Once he get that taste of blood, it's on and popping. He's not what color you are. He's tasting blood. He's red. And that's equivalent to these killer cops. We don't correct this. It's like, what is it going to take to correct them? We did this DOJ consent decree, which I never signed up to because I'm like, they never asked my signature. It's something that they were going to do. But I said that I wasn't a part of it because I felt like it wasn't real accountability. Everybody want to tiptoe around putting these killer cops in cell blocks. They want to do all this reform, all these changes, and it's changing nothing. Literally, while we are here, it's like literally when they came in, that's when all of the officers in Baltimore City turned their back, and this became the Wild Wild West. And I believe that some of them are committing these atrocities under their badge. They're doing this. They're doing this. Some of them are. I believe some of them don't know what's going on. A few of them don't know what's going on. They want real change, but I believe a big part of them are actually committing these crimes and hiding or know about it. You think about it. They're the ones that actually send people out that they call rats or whatever, informants to tell them stuff to set people up. What's the difference? It's organized crime. It's organized crime, and I call it legalized genocide. And like my sister Ishtam says, so it's just sad, and I can go on all night, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna let everybody else on the West Wednesday panel talk. I'm still checking to see if anybody made any comments. But it's just really sad. Like enough is good enough. We are tired of the drug and I don't say it because it sounds good. We are more than bodies. We're more than pictures and buttons on T-shirts. Our lives matter. It may not matter to the people that murder us and go back to their everyday, daily doing, but it matters to us. As soon as our loved one is murdered, our life has forever changed. Like now, like just flipping the roles with my cousin, both of my beautiful cousins, that was there, and they were fighting for their cousin Tyrone, and they was loving up on me and being strong for me. But now for them to feel their brother, Tavon Anderson, just gone, they feel this emptiness, even though they felt the emptiness of not having their cousin, but having their big brother gone. They feel this pain that I feel. I wouldn't wish this pain on anyone. It's real. It doesn't go anywhere. And meanwhile, we have to pay our dues to society. We still have to go to work. We still have to work our way through this. Even if you don't even have answers, you don't even understand what's going on, you still got to push forward. So I'm just asking you guys to push forward with us. And right now, if you guys can think of ways that we can actually force Marla Mosby to do her job, force these people that feel like they don't owe us a goddamn thing, force them to do their job. Force them to do their job. It's just that we gotta think of ways to fight this ugly, dirty system. So if you guys can think of something, because I feel like what we're doing is not working. It's like maybe working a little bit, but I need to work a lot. I need the wheels to actually really turn and get this thing going. Like I'm tired of slow winding it. I need a lot of gas right now. No brakes, because they're murdering us too fast. It's 2 minutes. Like, God forbid, what is it going to take for somebody to come murder me? And then they cover it up and say, oh, Tawanda Jones just sat in the car and somebody blew up brains out, or oh, Tawanda Jones, whatever. Like, enough's enough. Like, how many more? How many more people have to get murdered before you guys take the search? Do I have to be one of your loved ones before you actually, like, I'm sorry, like Boom say, put skin in the game? We have to do something now, y'all. Like I said on the video, the time is now. Like, we in 2021, and up society, and it's all great that they got this the shot going on, the vaccine and whatnot. But meanwhile, they don't even know if that's working, but yet they're taking all these restrictions back. And I heard Governor Hogan is actually opening up stuff because of holidays. Like, that's all it's about, this capitalist system. That's about the money. They don't give a damn about us. Like, they don't give a damn. Babies are back in school now, like as if the pandemic is gone, but yet we got face masks. So then some people don't. Like, I had this guy actually stalk me in Annapolis. The only loser, the only creep out there with no face mask on, jumped in front of the officer and was yelling crap at me. And then, thank goodness, I was never so happy to see Uncle Bill. And it's like Uncle Bill always shows up at the right time. So shout out to Uncle Bill. I know he didn't want to shout out, but I'm just going to give him a shout out anyway, because I think about the time when they sent this racist guy, when they threatened me, when they told me not to go down to Hopkins University, saying us out of dirt like everybody was doing with the John Hopkins students. But I got a threat. I got a direct threat from Ronnie D. I got a direct threat that called my attorney, told me not to go down there, that he would actually have something done to me. Like, really, that's what you mean, Ronnie D? By having a man stand by my car, not even 50 feet away from my car, yelling racial slurs at me? But thank God Uncle Bill said, you know what, let's walk to her car. And thank God that day, like, we were in the naps, I didn't even ask Uncle Bill, but I guess he saw what happened. I don't know. But thank God that Uncle Bill came, because my beautiful sister, Rachel, was going to go get the car. And I'm like standing there, and then I feel a hand on the back of my neck stand up, and it's right behind me, running, literally behind me, running fast, looking at me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like what? And I was never so glad to actually look behind him, and I see Uncle Bill, and I was like, yeah. So that's what I'm talking about, doing things without people asking you, and just doing things and being there. So I'm gonna leave it right there. Mic check.
Mic check. We have a couple comments. One comment from Charlene is, what is it going to take to correct them? That's the $1 million question. I would hope that it would be us, the people. Mm-hmm. So, Uncle Bill, what do you think it would take to correct them?
Well, we're up against probably one of the worst systems in the history of humanity, in the history of the planet. And the fight against slavery took hundreds of years, and a lot of heroic people who were willing to sacrifice. And I think that's sort of where we're headed to try and solve the problem of police brutality. It's built into this system. I don't think we can get rid of capitalism unless we get rid of racism. And I don't think we can get rid of racism unless we get rid of capitalism. So these are big jobs. It's going to take time. But imagine us a few hundred years back thinking that we'll never end slavery, and it's gone for the most part. And what we're experiencing today won't last forever either. So I think that Charlene is right, that the force that's going to be required is us. Charlene, you said you hope it's going to be the people. I think it has to be, because the politicians sure aren't going to do it. They're not standing up to these things and changing things in the direction we need. In fact, when we were in Annapolis, I guess it was last week on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason we went down there is because the legislators in Annapolis were watering down the various bills that were being proposed, trying to have a little impact on cutting back on police terror and a little impact on the ability to prosecute cops who commit violence against people. And they watered them down really badly, to the point where a lot of them are going to be largely meaningless. So I'll mention what I said at the rally that we had on Saturday downtown by City Hall. When we were in Annapolis, it brought to mind the speech that Malcolm X gave one time. This was about 3 months after the big 1963 Civil Rights March in Washington, which King gave his "I Have a Dream" speech. And Malcolm gave a speech. The march was in August. Malcolm's speech, I believe, was in November. And the title of it was, well, let me get it right. Message from the Grassroots. That's the title of Malcolm's speech. So the point he makes in there is that there are a lot of sellout people pretending to lead the anti-racist movement. And that's exactly what those politicians and state legislators are like. Malcolm, he said, it's similar to when you go to the dentist and you have a tooth that's been paining you really profoundly for a long time. You go there hoping for some relief. The dentist shoots your mouth full of Novocaine and starts to extract the tooth. Blood's running down your jaw. And Malcolm says the goal of the dentist is not to stop the suffering. He just wants you to suffer peacefully. And my impression is that that's the role of the supposed anti-racists in the state legislature, that they want to look like they're trying to cut back on our suffering. They want to look like they're cutting back on police brutality. They want to look like they execute killer cops. But really what they want us to be passive and peaceful and not fight hard for these things. They want us to continue to suffer, but suffer peacefully. So I think that Charlene's point is right on the money, though I don't believe in money, but right, to use an expression, that it's going to take organized people, masses of organized people, to make these changes. Like last summer, about 15 million people participated in all the various marches around the United States and the rebellions. Let's remember in Minneapolis, where George Floyd was killed, people burned down the police station. And I think that played a role in convincing them they had to fire those cops and then indict them and now begin the trial for Chauvin. So that's definitely Charlene's point. People are going to have to act on this. We will. We're going to succeed in the long run. And we should be optimistic about our ability down the road to really build a better world than we can see today. Mic check.
Mic check. Thanks, Bill.
Mic check. Bill, I'd like to just take one little difference of opinion there with you. I want to say that you said you equated being peaceful and being passive, and I think that those two are kind of different. A lot of times in the past, not only here in the U.S. with the civil rights movement, but if you look at like in the Philippines with the people power movement there, and in the various in Eastern Europe and in Tunisia, there have been a lot of cases where people have rebelled peacefully without using violence themselves and without being passive, and they've had really great victories. So I just want to throw that out there, that peaceful and passive are not the same thing.
Sorry, I had to unmute the mic. Right, they're not exactly the same thing. It's true, but I do want to mention a point that's made in this book. This is by one of the active people from the civil rights movement. This nonviolent stuff will get you killed. And he makes the argument that the civil rights movement, which was for the most part peaceful, that it could not have functioned, could not have won anything unless there were also armed groups prepared to defend them. So there was a chapter of the NAACP in one state that was armed. There were the Deacons for Defense, which were armed and had chapters in a number of places. And the man that wrote this book, he makes the argument that nonviolence was not a strategy in the civil rights movement. It was not a principle in the civil rights movement. It was a tactic. And that they wanted to put themselves in positions where police would attack, and they would expect that, and the horror of it would rouse the conscience of the nation. That was kind of the approach. But there were people armed who defended and were prepared to defend King at most times. And a number of the people active in the civil rights movement wisely said, had it not been for the Deacons for Defense and other armed groups like that protecting them, they could not have made any headway and could not have functioned. So I think you make a good point, but I don't think we can really overcome the problems of this system if we're committed to peacefulness at all times.
Oops. I'll tell you one thing for sure there, Bill. That violent stuff will get you killed too.
Amen. 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 Yeah.
Okay. There's one final comment on Facebook. Linda Green says, Prince George's County, Linda Green, Prince George's County, agree these legislators are hypocrites. Alonzo Washington met with People's Coalition and now is waffling on supporting these bills. Okay.
Mic check. Thank you. And as we keep our eye on the time, I was wondering, Brian, do you have that said list of names so that we can respect everybody time and things like that, and save the family and show respect to the families that are actually grieving right now?
Sure, I can do that for you. I have a list. I have actually 4 names out of 10 people here in Baltimore who have died by homicide in the past week. I'm just going to read those 4 names, and I'll try and come back later as the police release the name of these named victims, and have us look them up too at that point. But if you could just, might check these back to me as we go along, and we can raise up these victims and their, and of course their families and loved ones and their communities and their coworkers and all the people who are going to be tragically affected or have been tragically affected. Starting with Kendrick Hasty.
Kendrick Hasty.
Preston Hill.
Preston
Hill.
Tavon Hutton, age 32.
Tavon Hutton, age 32.
And Jaleel Jones, age 15.
Jaleel Jones, 15.
Age 15.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want everybody to just think that, God forbid, if that was your loved one name that was actually read out as a statistic. Meanwhile, this is your loved one. This is your brother, uncle, cousin, friend, and even in this case, son. It's just really sad. Like, it's just really sad. Like, it's horrible. So again, my heart, I'm a Christian woman, so I'll be praying and uplifting each and every last family members that are out here losing and burying their loved ones way before time. No one wakes up planning to bury their loved. No one. No one wakes up literally saying, you know what, this is the day that, you know, my loved one is going to get murdered and I'm going to have to plan a burial. Like, no one, nobody. This is really horrible. So again, my heart goes out and thank you, Brian, for that. Who said list of names. And like you said, please keep us updated. And also, Uncle Bill, do you have the names of the police brutality victims?
I do. The list that I have this time covers 10 days from March the 28th to, I'm sorry, from February the 28th to March the 9th. And this is from the Washington Post. It's not surprising that it may not be complete because who is it? Bezos owns or used to own that, and also owns Amazon. And Amazon now is trying to fight off the union, where the workers are trying to unionize. I guess it's in Kentucky to improve their lives because they're mistreated and overworked at Amazon. So I don't think, the point I'm making is I don't think we have all the people we can honor and hold up. Because in general, the police kill about 3 people a day, and this is 12 people over 10 days. But let's keep these people in mind and honor their lives. So first we have from Muskogee, Ohio. They don't give us the age. It was a woman. Her name was Farrah Roach.
Farrah Roach.
Thank you. Whoop. See if I can get this working. It's kind of froze. Give me a moment. Okay. The next victim, also on February the 28th in Catoosa County, Georgia, 54 years old. His name was Fred Trundle.
Fred
Trundle.
And if I wasn't clear, these are all people that were killed by police around the United States in the very recent days. In Ozark, Arkansas, 46 years old, Adam Cunningham.
Adam Cunningham.
The next person has not as yet been identified. It was in Houston, Texas on March the 3rd. In Abbeville, I believe that's how we say it, Abbeville, Louisiana, 41 years old, Dwight Brown.
Dwight Brown.
In Jamesville, New York, 17 years old, shot and killed by the police, Justin Albom.
Justin Albom.
On March the 5th, in Columbus, Ohio, 43 years old, Andrew Teague.
Andrew Teague.
On March the 5th, this person has not been identified, so we can't honor him by name. This was in Odessa, Texas, killed by the police. Another person on the same day, March the 5th, Gainesville, Florida, and again, not yet identified, and we can't hold up his name today. On March the 6th, the following day in Fairbanks, Alaska, 27 years old, Jesse Peter.
Jesse Peter.
Also killed by police, now on March 7th in Lakeland, Florida, 35 years old, Hawayne Gale.
Gale.
On March 9th, this person has not yet been identified in Reedsport, Oregon, killed by police, and I'm sorry we can't uphold that name. And that's the entire list that I have for this evening. Every life counts, and although sometimes we have to deal with a much larger list, these are all real people and real lives stolen, and they're in our thoughts. Mic check.
Mic check.
So do we have any more questions or comments?
We do not. There are no more questions or comments on the Facebook page or the YouTube, Twitch, and other streaming services at the moment.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, so again, thank you, Uncle Bill, for sharing that horrible awful list of all the murders that took place by people that's supposed to serve and protect us throughout the United States. So it's just really sad. And that goes to show that this is something, the saddest part, all the names that you read, I haven't heard any of these names on like different, stations and things like that. 'Cause I even watch like worldwide news. I haven't heard any of these names. And I think that it is basically strategically done for us not to know the names because they want to make it seem like these are isolated incidents that are happening around America. But in fact, it's systemically happening. It's happening around the world. And that's why I don't want you guys to miss this very important conversation that our brother Benjamin is going to actually take us into at exactly 7:30. I'll be joining Bobby, and a big shout out to Bobby because I have been on his platform before. This is not my first time. I remember when I got on his platform before, I was there with the mother of Christopher Brown, who was murdered in the county for actually knocking, and he wasn't even the one that actually knocked on an officer's door that was off duty. And, the kids were playing and things like that. And, some of the teenagers had actually was knocking on, the door and whatnot. But for somebody to just knock on your door and some teenagers, you come out and then you choke Christopher Brown out and then you leave him dead. And then you go, oh, I didn't know how to do CPR. And even though thank goodness we testified that there is a law out, the Christopher Brown law, that basically makes them, mandatory for them to get their CPR training. But again, I say that's not enough. I say that's not enough. Like it's not enough. To me, the big retribution is seeing these killer cops in the cell blocks. And as we keep our eyes open, I want you to watch the George Floyd trials. Keep your eyes on it. 'Cause to me, I feel like they're doing the Doug and Pony show again because they already done watered down the charges. Like if we would have murdered somebody the way we saw that killer cop, I don't even want to say his name. He's not even worth me mentioning his name at this time. But if we would have did what he did to poor George Floyd, you actually see him murdered on camera, literally screaming out for his dead mama. Literally, the world in the pandemic was able to hear him say, "Mom," foot kneeling on his neck, the same fashion in which my brother and the witnesses on Kentmore Causeway were screaming. They saw the life of Tyrone West be murdered, and these animal scavengers have not been charged. So I'm telling you, I'd be so surprised if he get a charge. I think it's going to be knocked down. He probably get manslaughter, a few years probation, some foolishness. Like the way Oscar Grant was murdered and how they watered that down. Shot in the back. Shot in the back, and they wanted to completely down. I think he got a big smack on the wrist. I think he got some probation time. Like really? And even the guy that was sitting in his house that was eating ice cream when you had Killer Amy or whatever her name was, that actually act like she had the wrong apartment came in. Her charge is completely, you go in a man's house and sitting on his couch in the comforts of his own damn home. And since speaking of home, let's think about our beautiful Corinne Gaines, a mom in the house with her babies, her family. And you got killer cops serving a damn traffic, want something for traffic court? Something that you can't even really get no jail time for, traffic goddamn court. But they come with a hit squad and they murder her in front of her baby and then actually shoot her baby in the face. And then while they was doing the Doug and Pony show, oh, they like, did Corinne Gaines shoot her own son? Like, really? What mother shoots their own child? Like, get out of it. But that's what they do because they know dead people can't talk. So they make us look like, so I'm sorry, so they make the dead people look like they got what was coming of them, and that it's just horrible. It's just sad. It's just disgusting. So I just want you guys to keep your eyes on what's going on. Don't wait till your loved one is the one in the spotlight. Don't wait till you're on this side, because this is a side that nobody wants to sit back in your home now and watch us and not go through this daily pain that we are suffering, that we're traumatized by daily, daily. Not a day go by, daily traumatized over and over and over again. So lucky you could just sit back and hold tight to your family, and lucky even if you're not in a black or brown body, that you can actually know what it feels to wake up and not worry. I mean, we all got worry or whatever, but to actually not have to worry about if a cop pulls your daughter or your son or you over in a white body, that nobody's going to murder you. You know, you might get a ticket if that. Just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. But our reality is you don't even know if you're going to even make it home every day. You don't even know if you're going to make it home from work. We're not safe at our jobs. We're not safe in our homes. Where in America are we really safe? Like, if you can think of a real place of safety, please let me know. Please let me know.
Tawanda, if you like, I sent in testimony for hearings today in Annapolis about whether or not Hopkins is going to be able to have a private armed police force. And I can read the testimony that I sent in if you'd like me to.
Okay, sure. It's 7:22.
Yeah, it'll take about 2 minutes.
20.
They had a 2-minute time limit there, so I think this will be about 2 minutes.
Okay.
So here are 5 reasons why Johns Hopkins and other universities have a private armed police force. Number 1, around the country, the relatively small number of private universities that do have armed police forces of their own have a history that's important to understand. In general, these private police departments were started in the late 1960s. Their main purpose was not safety. No, their main purpose was to give college administrators a means of using the threat of organized violence and actual violence to control students involved in on-campus struggles for civil rights and in struggles against the war in Vietnam. Number 2, police brutality and police murders are extensive. On a national level, police now kill many more people each year than the number of people lynched annually during the Jim Crow period of U.S. history. And as you say, Tawanda, it's the Ku Klux Klan today. Currently, about 1,100 people die at the hands of the police each year. That's about 3 people every day. Point 3, when unarmed Tyrone West in July of 2013 was stopped for a supposed traffic infraction, but was then called the N-word repeatedly by the police, pulled from his car by his hair, tased, maced again and again, and severely beaten by 12 to 15 cops with fists, batons, and boots, a Signal 13 code was issued. Though about a half mile from Morgan University's campus, Morgan cop David Lewis responded. When he arrived on the scene, he sat with all of his 315 pounds, or was it 320, Tawanda? 320, excuse me, on Tyrone West, who was already handcuffed and severely injured, as Tyrone breathed his last breath. Unfortunately, it's reasonable to expect that Hopkins and other university cops, too, will be called upon in such situations, and in some instances are likely to behave similarly. Point 4, Hopkins in particular has a history of racism. For example, for the first 70 years of the Hopkins School of Medicine, there was a strictly enforced policy of total exclusion of Black students. More recently, Hopkins engaged in extensive urban removal, forcing large numbers of Black families out of their homes in neighborhoods surrounding the medical school and the hospital. And now the Homewood campus continues to have only a tiny percentage of Black students and an even more infinitesimal percentage of Black faculty members. Point 5, the last point. Hopkins students against private police have looked up Hopkins official statistics about so-called suspects detained by Hopkins security. These are their unarmed cops during the span of one recent year. The demographics tell us volumes about racism and profiling. For so-called suspects, those whose race was identified by Hopkins, 97% were Black. Do we want the perpetrators and the orchestrators of this profile to be equipped with guns and shielded from guilt and culpability by the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights in its old version or in its slightly modified version? Absolutely not. So that's the testimony I sent in today for the hearing about whether or not Hopkins should be allowed to have a private armed police force. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic
Say
check.
real quick, Uncle Bill, you did a great job with that testimony. But to me, I feel like now it's the done. I feel like I really don't even believe that they're going to read it. Like I believe that they know what they're going to do and they know what they're not going to do. It's like the meeting before the meeting, just like they make our family set up there and we testify and we start saying how our loved one was slaughtered and they're sitting back texting and playing the dog and pony show games and all this foolishness. And meanwhile, they know damn well, oh, we're not going to do a total repeal of the officer bill. All right, we're going to gut it out. They know what they're going to do. They already know what they're going to do. They already know what they're going to do. So,
Good point. Good point, Sister Tawanda.
So again, I want everybody to tune in. I'm probably gonna hop off for like 2 minutes because I actually gotta join the Zoom, but I don't need you guys to go anywhere. I want you to stay tuned because you definitely don't want to miss our brother Bobby. Enough is enough. Police accountability. Zoom show tonight is going to be real powerful, painful at the same time because again, I don't get any joy out of the same family members over and over a man demanding accountability. And meanwhile, before we go into that conversation, I want you guys to know how the medical examiner's office plays a very big role as into why we don't get accountability. So it's not just the killer cops and murderer. You got judges, you got the medical examiner's office, just like in Antoine Black case, the same exact thing they did with my brother case of medical, and Pamela Southall was the one. I believe she worked on Antoine and she worked on my brother. And she lied for the police. Yes, she did. She lied. She lied. And it's just sad they get to work and do all this, but guess what? They got a day. Their day is coming. It comes a time when we all are held accountable for our actions. May not be held accountable here on earth, but I believe in my heart, one day you will be judged. And I hope Pamela Southall, when it's your time, I hope everybody that you sat and you lied over for the damn police and the FOP, I hope they haunt the hell out you and I hope you burn in hell. They do. Because there's no way in the world I could actually lie over somebody's loved one. Your job as a medical examiner's office is basically to let the forensic evidence speak for the victim. They can't no longer talk, but you can see, oh damn, they was choked out, or they was this, they was that. And that's all that's supposed to be in the reports. But this is the same lady that had killer cops in the same room where my brother's autopsy was being performed while she's actually working on my brother's dead body. There's some sick, you know what? Some sick bastards. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I said it. Nobody else in the West Coalition. Tawanda Jones. That's my view on it. That was my brother. So I can say whatever the hell I want to say. And I'm saying it from a loving, compassionate heart. They dirty to the core. So it's not just the officers. We got to worry about the judges. We got to worry about the medical. We got to worry about this whole evil, corrupt system that works together to keep a damn lie alive. So you guys stay right there. Uncle Ben, I'm sorry, Uncle Bill and Brother Ben, can you guys keep them and Brian keep everybody tuned in as you guys go over 728. So I'm gonna hang up, but I'll be back in a few minutes because I'm ready to go and chime in on this. And remember, if I don't get to say it on his show, live to love to live. I love you all. We will see you next West Wednesday, but I want you to hold on tight. We will see you next West Wednesday for week 399. I jumped a week last week, making sure I don't do that this time, but definitely tune in. You don't want to miss. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Yeah.
Marcellus, if there's a moment or two before we get switched over, I noticed there's some comments by, let's see, by Hillary and by Linda, if we have time for that.
Yes, we do. So a couple comments. Linda Green said, I saw the medical examiner listed other possible causes of death in George Floyd's case besides police murder. So much like Tyrone's case. Hillary says systemic violence and attempting.
I noticed there's some comments by, let's see.
Systemic violence and attempting to control via violence sends the message that dealing with conflict by being violent is okay and truly safe. And finally, Linda Green replying said, so what kind of message does it send with cops and security guards arresting children in our schools?
Well,
all right, let's see what's going on with my camera. I'll leave this. I think you was right.
There we go.
Cool beans. How do I
So
have enough time?
grandson tried to sabotage you.
Let me tell you, I had a producer come here. She had to do something to it. That's why I said I just was on it today, so I know it's good. He only 3. He was doing all kinds of stuff. So was my background okay or am I too close?
It looks fine. It looks fine.
Oh, okay, cool. So is the link just for us, the panelists?
Yes, the link is for the panelists. Ben is assisting Tawanda with streaming West Wednesdays on their end. So Ben is going to be our tech guy for the evening.
Okay, cool.
That all right. Give me 1 second, Ben. I'm going to connect this in just a minute.
Oh, I see him. Hey.
You know, I don't. This is not my favorite thing to do, folks, to manage a whole bunch of stuff. So y'all bear with me. I'm trying to take my time, give myself grace as I manage all this stuff.
It's all good.
Multitasking is the devil.
It's good.
Devil. That's how I feel. It's overrated. I hate multitasking. It's overrated. All right. So I'm about to hit record for us to go on. I'm going to go real quick, folks. I'm going to share a video. Play a video first. Then I'm going to bring in Davon. Davon going to give us a quick legislative update. He's going to hop off, and then I'm going to go straight to you ladies.
Good to see you, Davon.
Hey, good to see you.
Thanks.
You lose one?
I just wonder what you're doing there.
Oh, here she go. Here she go. She had to jump off, jump on.
Bobby,
Yes.
do you have a Sandra Collins in the waiting room? So that's my mother. She's using her sister's phone.
No, I didn't see that.
Or Sandy Collins or something like that.
No.
She just texted me. Hold on.
No, ma'am. Didn't.
Okay.
She's coming up.
She's texting me again. Hold on. Do you see? I don't know. She's sending me my aunt's phone number, a 619-549 number. Is that showing up? Just a phone number?
I see someone's iPhone on there. Is this it?
It might be. Is it showing up 619-549? Hold on. Aunt's phone number. She used to live in California, but she kept her area code, so I know it's 619. Let me ask my mother. She's in the waiting room.
All right. Screen real quick.
Oh, she said she can see us? Oh.
She got to turn the video on. I think this is her. She got to turn the video on.
Okay. Hold on. Okay, I just told her to turn it on. She says it's on. She might be having the same problem that you were having, Darlene.
Miss Collins?
Oh, there she is. That's my mother, Mrs. Black.
Mrs. Black.
Miss Black.
How you doing, Miss Black? You on mute.
Push the button. Tell her push the mic.
Mom, you gotta hit the button at the bottom of the iPhone.
I got it.
The mic. Oh, okay.
Hello.
How you doing, Miss Black? Thank you for joining us.
Tawanda.
I'm fine. Can y'all see me?
Yeah.
Enough light in here.
I know. I got all the lights on.
Oh, hold on. Let's see. Hold on. Let me see. Is this any better? Oh, yes. This is a lot better.
I'm moving all over the place too.
How you doing today, Miss Tawanda? It's good to see you.
How you doing?
I'm all right.
Awesome.
And I'm sorry, Devon, I didn't speak earlier. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
All right, folks. Thank you for all coming. I appreciate all of you being here. Sister Tawanda definitely wanted to show some love to West Wednesdays. I asked Ben, can you put the logo up? Definitely want to show some love. You all taking time out of your busy schedules to join me this evening for this important conversation. Hold on just a second. We're going to begin after I play this video.
Okay.
I was a daddy's girl. Everything that my dad told me, you have to be a leader, you have to lead by example. Now I understand why he was telling me all these things growing up. I just miss him a lot. I do. My name is Erica Garner. My dad was Eric Garner. He died on the streets of Staten Island. My sister calls, and it was a shock because that was in the middle of the day. Like, what are you calling me for? So she's like, "Oh my God, Erica, I just got some bad news. I don't know. Mom is hysterical. She's crying. She's just yelling out that he stopped breathing." I'm like, "Who stopped breathing?" He's talking about daddy. I said to my coworker, I'm like, "I don't know what's going on. My dad stopped breathing." As we're driving out there, we see news vans and police tape. A news reporter from Daily News said that there's a video. And my brother, I don't know, he disappeared. He went in the back and got on the computer and looked it up.
It doesn't matter what you said. I did it. Oh, I did. I'm bad. I got no bag. I didn't show anything.
My brother just screamed out. He was like, "Y'all, come look."
Don't touch me, please. Girl came over. Don't touch me. Gave us a bag of baby shit.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for joining us. I'm Bobby Marvin Holmes, host of Hugh Voices, a podcast where we center the empowerment of Black children, youth, and families. That clip you just heard was Erica Garner, the late activist and daughter of Eric Garner, who was killed in police custody in 2014. His death would be among a litany of brothers and sisters who died at the hands of police. Behind family members that told their stories, maintained their legacies, and demanded justice for them. Now, during the 2021 Maryland legislative session, advocates continue their fight by demanding lawmakers to take action and pass legislation that enforce police accountability. The time is now. Enough is enough. Joining me for this conversation is Latoya Holly. She is the sister of Anton Black and member of the Coalition for Justice for Anton Black. She also joined by her mother, as well as Anton's mother, Mrs. Black, who is also the member of the Coalition for Justice for Anton Black. Also joining us is Darlene King, mother of Dale Graham and founder and president of Mothers on the Move. Also joining us for this conversation is Davon Love, who is the Director of Public Policy for the Leaders of Beautiful Struggle. And last but certainly not least, joining us is Tawanda Jones, sister of Tyrone West, also the founder of West Wednesdays. I thank you all for taking the time out to join us for this very important conversation. A conversation that's definitely necessary for our youth as well as our families as to what happened, what is taking place within our communities. For me personally, this is something that we all have reckoned with within our community. And I've seen video after videos of young folks, our mothers, our brothers, our fathers, our sisters, so many others that we've lost. And we're forced to figure out how to navigate during this time, how to seek justice for our loved ones, the justice they so rightfully deserve. In that space, we also ask the question of, is the systems that serve us, is it enough? the systems that the folks that we vote for, is it enough? Of course, it's not for me to answer alone, but I wanted to have this important conversation with all of you here this evening, so we can have this as a collective. Before we get into it, I want to first go to Davon Love, Director of Public Policy for Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle. Davon, Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle, as well as so many advocates across the state of Maryland, Out for Justice, ACLU of Maryland, are pushing a substantial police reform. Can you tell us, can you give us an update of what's happening right now during the 2021 Maryland legislative session?
Yeah, so just want to say, first is that, one of the things I think is important for the listening audience to recognize this year's worth of work that have led up to the point we're at now. And so this legislative session, there's been a lot of activity over the summertime and time, before that. And there are two particular issues I want to focus on that we find to be the kind of centerpiece. Because for us, the most important part is the community having control. Too often I think the issues of police brutality has been approached from the perspective of how do we get people to recognize folks suffering? And one of the things I've experienced, I believe most of the people that are on the screen are folks that I've seen testify, in Annapolis, and have shared their stories over and over and over again. And one of the things that, has frustrated me over the years is that oftentimes what we get out of the General Assembly is, almost nothing towards actually addressing this issue. The two major issues we focused on is the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights and the Maryland Public Information Act. And the Maryland Public Information Act for this session is called Anton's Law. And I'm sure your viewers are going to hear more about the story of Anton. The Maryland Public Information Act is important because the investigatory files of police officers are prohibited from public disclosure. So what that means is that if an officer has a record of abusing people in the community, mistreating people, engaging in brutality, the record of that is not disclosable to which means we're having to trust police departments to properly discipline police officers that harm our community. And whether we look at the Department of Justice report from 2016 on Baltimore City's police department, whether it's the Maryland Commission on Restoring Trust in Policing, or whether it's the Graham report that just came out. These are examples of documentation of police officers for whom have a pattern of abuse and behavior that was available to the departments and they refused to act. And so what we have fought for this session, and in terms of a top priority, is making those police investigatory files available for public disclosure. Secondly, we focused on the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights. It's a very complex piece of legislation, but it gives currently in law, it gives police officers a bunch of protections above and beyond their constitutional rights. And essentially what it does is it allows police to control the process of disciplining police officers, essentially allowing them to police themselves. So what we fought for is a repeal of the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights, but also replacing it with something that still provides police officers the due process that other state and government employees get, but that creates a structure so that creates something that the community can hold them accountable, so that police are just not policing themselves. I'm sure many of your listeners know that the Maryland state law is made between January and April. It's a 90-day session, and we're now 2/3 of the way in. And the news in terms of where we are is mixed. On one hand, out of the Senate, we got a really strong Anton's Law, which is the bill that relates to the Maryland Public Information Act, came out strong on the Senate side. And that's important because then it gives us leverage in terms of dealing with what comes out of the House. And on LEOBR, the Senate, in our estimation, did a terrible job. Because while they technically will be able to say they repealed the LEOBR, there's still provisions that were amended on to the bill that was Senator Joe Carter's bill, where two Democratic senators, chair and vice, well, three Democratic senators, Senator Jackson from Prince George's County, Senator Jeff Wallstreicher from County, Senator Will Smith from Montgomery County, voted with Republicans to essentially put amendments in the bill that were core tenets of the Maryland Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights. Things like officers not having to disclose their financial, without requiring officers to have financial disclosures. So you remember the Gun Trace Task Force, police officers selling drugs, stealing money, et cetera. So it helped to kind of thwart some of that. So those are some of but the biggest piece that got gutted from the Senate bill dealing with LEOBR is community oversight. Because the bill would have allowed jurisdictions through a local ordinance to establish a community oversight entity that can adjudicate and impose discipline. And again, for us, that's central. Because if officers, the reason why officers are able to do the things they do is because they know they're not mechanisms by which they could be held accountable by the community. And so what was struck from the Senate bill was the provision that would have allowed jurisdictions to be able to impose discipline. So that's where we're on the Senate side. On the House side, we started out with there's Anton's Law on the House side, right? That bill is similar to what got out the House. What is moving is the House decided to amend a weaker version that what came out of the Senate of Anton's Law. And essentially what it does is that it still creates barriers for public disclosures that we think are unnecessary, but it opens it up a lot further than where the House began, where really the House only wanted to give us a small subset of categories for disclosure. So I would say in the House, we have a version that's not as good as what came out the Senate on Anton's Law, but stronger than where the House started. On LEOBR, we have a situation where the replacement language still leaves intact some of the core aspects of LEOBR, trial boards. And even though these trial boards have an administrative law judge and a civilian, these are still internal police processes. This is not community oversight. And they have a very complex process of charging committees, establishments of a public accountability board. The public accountability boards that is mandated in the House's version of this piece of legislation mandates communities to develop these police accountability boards, but gives them no power to discipline. And so for us, if we're serious about community oversight, you have to give community the power to discipline police officers. And so there was an attempt actually just a few minutes ago. The House is actually on the floor right now. And Delegate Acevedo put in an amendment that would have added community oversight into the House bill. And unfortunately, that amendment failed. We're going to get the voting list so we can disclose to the public everybody that was for it, everybody that was against it. And so where we are now, like I said in the beginning, it's mixed, right? I think we're going to get more access to public records. That'll be good because we'll have more information to be able to make arguments in the future about future changes. But it still leaves us in a position where the community doesn't have power to control the process and that's the essence of what police accountability is about. The House is likely going to pass their bill off of the House floor in the next few days. The bills on each side will go to conference committee. And so they're going to reconcile the two versions of the bill. So our hope is to make sure that what comes out of conference committee is that we get the Senate version of Anton's Law. And we continue to try to push for community oversight to be in the bill. So that's where we are now in the process.
Good deal, Davon. Before you go, I want to ask, what can community members, what can we do to call on lawmakers to consider these amendments?
I just legislators. One of the things that has become clear to us is that both sides, the Senate and the House, the delegates and the senators, they're afraid when the public comes out, gives calls, shares social media posts about what's happening. So continue to call your legislators, and if you go to LBS Baltimore on all our relevant social media, information that you'll need to be able to call, email your legislator, and share the social media posts, both of our page and the pages of our partners that are engaged in the advocacy of Annapolis.
Good deal, Davon. Thank you for your time, taking the time out to do this, man. I know it was last minute that I called on you, but I thought it was important insight and necessary to this conversation this evening. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
Continue to fight.
All right. You all take care.
So like I said, that was definitely needed for our conversation tonight, but I want to turn to the families that are impacted by this the most. Son of a Dream's work is about telling the stories of Black children, youth, and families. To that end, I want to first start off panelists to honor their loved ones by telling their story of who they are as a people, who were they, and what happened to them. I want to first start off with Miss Darlene Kane. You're still muted.
I'm Darlene Kane, the mother of Dale Graham. He was a 29-year-old law student going to the University of Baltimore. He was shot and killed October 28th by Baltimore City police officers in East Baltimore for a domestic dispute. He had 2 children. They were 3 and 6 at the time. And I was working for Shock Trauma and Woodlawn Fire Department. And I had to end up keeping the kids for a couple of years. And it was hard, getting lawyers, taking care of his kids, because all this was given to me while I was having 2 jobs trying to work. I was unable to work. I had to end up quitting both of my jobs. Lost a lot of weight. I went through a whole lot. I went through a lot. I lost a lot. I ended up giving up where I was living at and starting to friends. And he was a brother also. He had a brother. They had an apartment together. Once Dale died, his brother didn't return to the apartment. He couldn't come back even to get his own belongings. So it shows you that the siblings, they suffer too. They go through a lot as well. Until this day, his oldest granddaughter graduated from high school. She misses her father dearly. Celebration, he wasn't there. His other daughter turned 16. She had a sweet 16 party. She wasn't there. All she had was pictures of Dale. And it's such a big void to know that someone's going to get killed and die by the hands of the law, somebody we supposed to trust. And when we call 911, you don't think that your loved one going to end up dead and shot and killed by police. And he was a law student. He went to 3 colleges. And he was the light of the family. He was like a light bulb. When everybody, he got excited. He loved his family. He just, always came up with ideas to have a party or some kind of gatherings. Even if we didn't have any money, he was just coming up with ideas. We're going to do this today, or somebody going to have a party.
It's 8 o'clock.
He was just so loving. And I looked at him like he was my big teddy bear, because Dale played football. I thought he was 6'2", but the funeral director had to call me and get a new casket because they said he was 6'4". So all the years I thought my son was 6'2", 6'2 and a half. I never knew he was 6'4". So you can imagine how tall he was. And so, I miss those hugs, being all up in his armpit, and, him walking in the door. And what we go through is that they're never going to come back through the door again for dinner. They're never going to have a seat at the table. We're never going to see them on birthdays and holidays. It's a lot. You think about them every day. There's not a day go by that I don't think about them. It's not a day to go by that I don't understand what the families and the mothers are going through, and sisters and brothers, when they get those phone calls. It is a pill that's so hard to swallow, and I don't wish anybody, not even my enemy, to go through what I've been through over 12 years at all.
Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Black, tell us about Anton Black. Tell us about your baby. You got to unmute yourself again, Ms. Black.
Okay, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Hello.
Anton was 19 years old. He was going to Wesley College. He wanted to be a police for criminal justice. Anton always wanted to be a police officer. When he graduated from high school, he tried to get on the force in Greensboro, and they told him he had to be 21. So he decided he would go to college and do criminal justice. Along with that, he had put that town on the map, Caroline County. He was always on television and in the newspaper because he was wide receiver for North Carolina High School. He also ran track. He went on and he ran in Morgan of 2016. He had 38 medals, 275 ribbons. The only reason why they did not go to the championship and they lost because Anton had twisted his ankle in the last game. So he shut out. He started modeling part-time. He was in 2 movies. They were still filming before he was murdered. And he also walked in Fashion Week in New York. Well, we did not know that Anton was also supposed to, the modeling agencies was looking for him. They did not know that Anton had passed away because they wanted him to walk in Fashion Week in Milan, Italy. So Anton made it and didn't even know he made it. This day, it was on a Saturday. I came home from going shopping. Me and him was playing around the house. And I told him, I said, Anton, can you go pick your niece up? He said, Mommy, no, my car has a flat. I said, well, I'll let you borrow mine. He said, oh, you gonna let me drive the Jag? I said, yeah, I'll let you drive because you're responsible. I said, because I know you're gonna go and come right back. So in the meantime, he said, well, can I do it in a couple of hours? He said, because I need to go and start training. So I said, okay. When I seen Anton, he was riding his niece's bike around the neighborhood. And he told me, he said, Mommy, I'll be right back. He went and got a family member, which Anton, the children in the neighborhood, he always, either he would get them to start a football game or go and play basketball. In the town as well, it wasn't, and it was his cousin. So later on this night, okay, where's Anton? So in all this noise, which I knew my neighbor had a motorcycle, but noise was too loud. It sounded like it was in my yard. So I got up and looked out the window. I didn't see anything. But then I heard Anton holler, Mommy, help. I'm thinking he's in his room. So I run back there. And when I'm running past to go to his room, my living room window, I could see the police light. So I opened up the front door. It was 5 of them on top of him. And the one, he said, "Oh, you know me." I said, "Get off my son. What are you doing?" He tried to kidnap a kid. I said, "Kidnap a kid? Who?" A 12-year-old kid. They never would tell me who they was talking about. Come finding out it was Anton's cousin. So then the one officer that was from Delaware, he's gonna say later on, I seen him horse playing around. They were together off and on around town, just horse playing. They haven't two ball. So how, if you saw the same two boys together, how y'all gonna come up with a story 10 minutes later? He was trying to kidnap on foot. And all these other officers, a lot of them that was included, why was they in Greensboro? One was from Ridgely, okay? One was from one in Centerville, lives not too far from the house. But the one from Delaware, he was out of jurisdiction. If you supposedly got a 911 call saying something was wrong, that was Caroline County Sheriff Department. They didn't show up until later, which when they told me, I asked them 10 times, was Anton under arrest? They told me each time, no. He was not under arrest. Next thing I see a whole lot of blood in Anton's head. And I'm asking, where was the blood? Man knows. He's going to tell me it was coming from him. I looked him up and down and I said, I don't see any blood on you. And when they set my baby's head up against the wall, I'm the one that said he was not breathing. He had turned purple. Jeez. They running around trying to find handcuffs keys to unhandcuff him. And then they would not even let me get into the ambulance to go to the hospital with him. They locked me in the back of the police car for 45 minutes. And I could not breathe because they didn't turn the air conditioner on and it was hot and I'm banging on the window while they're in my driveway trying to get their story together of what they're going to say. So they murdered my baby. I don't know for what reason or whatever, but they killed. And then I lost another son 5 months after that because of his little bit. When is this going to stop? Somebody, they need to be, something needs to be done. There's too many of us being murdered, our children being murdered, our loved ones for no reason. Anton has a baby girl that would never know her father. She would never get to touch her or feel her. She was born 2 months after he was murdered. I mean, we can do the best I can and talk to him, but she's never going to have the touch. And I'm sorry, I don't want anybody else to keep going through what we all families have to go through. Something has to be done. Somehow, something has to change because it's not right. It's not fair.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Black. Tawanda. Sister Tawanda, we're streaming on your page as well. Can you let folks know your page as well? That this recording be available on your page. Can you let folks know your page?
Yes.
Real quick.
Yeah. So thank you again, Ivy. I really appreciate you. Everybody did. This is recorded. You can find it. All you have to do is just hashtag West Wednesday. You can find it on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, all the social platforms. So big shout out to Brother Ben. But nevertheless, my heart goes out to my sister Darlene. My heart goes out to Miss Black. I'm so sorry. I don't know what it feels like to lose a child, and I don't ever want to feel what it feels like. I don't ever want to feel that pain, but I do know what it feels like to lose a big brother, someone that was my best friend, someone that was even a father figure to me, that was my protector. I do know what that feels. That was my brother Tyrone West. He was a God-fearing man. That was my church buddy. We went to church every Sunday. He was the firstborn in the family. He was a father of four beautiful children. He has three children, two sons and one beautiful daughter, his oldest daughter and his two sons. He even had grandchildren that he would never ever get to hug, hold, love one. It's just really sad that what they're doing. He was an upcoming inspiring artist. He could draw anything, like anybody, anything. He loved drawing. He loved going to work every single day. He loved taking care of my family. He was the glue to my whole entire family. He believed in good exercising and just living and doing right. And that's why on July the 18th, 2013, going on 8 years ago, my brother was executed, beat to death. And when you showed the video, you touched my heart of Eric Gardner, because when I saw that video of Eric Gardner, which was murdered a year after my brother, but close to the time frame as we were coming up with my brother's commemoration, here it is, another man choked out, screaming, "I can't breathe." You know, it's horrible. Like, how many more videos do we have to see? And the fact that my brother Tyrone West, an unarmed man, literally pulled over for a traffic, which, matter of fact, it wasn't even a traffic violation, because let's be clear, nothing was wrong with the brakes on my car, nothing was wrong with the lights, nothing was wrong. There was no reason for Killer Ruiz and Killer Chapman. They were the first two that initiated this heinous attack on one unarmed man. Viciously and like quickly, they actually dragged him out by his dreadlock. He's pulling over. He's letting them know, "Hey, I'm unarmed," type of thing. He got the lights on in my car, hands out. He don't even know why he's being pulled over. They're in an unmarked car. But immediately once he realized, "Hey, they're trying to pull me over," he complied. And for that reason, he was murdered. Chapman said, "This is what we do to you N-words." And Ruiz quickly agreed. "Yeah, this is what we do." We started tasing him in his neck 4 times, unleashed 2 canisters of pepper spray in my brother's eyes. My brother, at this point, he can't breathe. He's screaming now for his life because he don't know why that they did this. Like, why are you doing this to me? This moment, he's like, it's like fight or flight. I'm not gonna stand there and just die. So now he's screaming to neighbors in the Kentmore Cowsway neighborhood. He's screaming, "Help, help, Trayvon Martin." He's yelling a victim name. You got a victim that's dying. That last conversation with his sister was about all the George Zimmermans that plague our community. Now my brother, who's a victim now, is screaming another victim name. He's screaming, "Trayvon Martin, help, help. Someone call 911 on the police." And then what happens? 911, basically, I don't even know if 911 was called, but I know a phony signal 13 was called out. And that was only because, because Killer Chapman has sprayed so much of chemicals that some of the backlash got in his eyes to the point he couldn't breathe. So he called for help for himself, not for my brother, that, like I said, he unleashed 2 canister sprays of chemicals into my brother's eyes. And then on top of that, Ruiz tased him in his neck 4 times. So my brother's spitting out blood, running, screaming, can't see, blinded. He done been electrocuted. He's running, dying, running. And what do the 11 and 15 officers do? Do they render help for this unarmed man that's begging and pleading for his life? No. They toss him onto the ground like roadkill. They start pulling his dreadlocks. They beat him from one side of the street to the other. Witnesses told my family that, credible eyewitness, and there is video footage out there of this brutal attack. But me and my family will probably never get to see that. And I urge anybody that is watching this right now, if you have that video footage, please contact me. My email is Miss Tawanda, that's MISSTAWANDA @yahoo.com, or you can reach me on Justice for Tyrone West or on the West hashtag West Wednesday. Send us a message, please, because we need this video footage. It's sad that We are people until we see it and actually see when Antoine's mom was pleading for her son life. I saw that horrible video. I was in tears. And Sister Queen, I want to tell you, the same games that the medical examiner's office played with your family, it was done on my brother. On 2013, Pamela Southpole said that my brother died from a heart attack and dehydration. And as if they were trying to say, like, he had exuberant strep, as if, but like, I forgot the terminology because my mind is all over the place. But they basically try to say, like, he had a heart attack and he just died. And it's just sad. And that's the same exact thing that they try to lie and say, like, they didn't kill your son, like he died from natural foolishness. So we basically, when I went to the medical examiner's office, not only did I carry my brother's name with you, but when I found out about what happened to your son, I did a big protest. I was heated. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Not another young Black man. No, oh hell no. So we took a West Winds, and we've been out here now for 398 weeks nonstop. We used to be, before COVID, we were actually out in the streets, like literally, I don't care if it was raining, I don't care if the snow on the ground, I don't care if it was a day that I'm like, the roads are icy, I'm not driving to work. I will catch a cab, I will get a ride down to a corner somewhere to uplift not just my brother Tyrone West's name, but Antoine Black's name, Darlene's son name, all of the names, Garion Gray Hopkins, all of the names of police brutality, Anthony Anderson, the list goes on. It is too many names. How many of our loved ones have to be brutally murdered before somebody say enough is enough? They're never going to say that. We're asking our oppressors to free us. Like, really? Are they going to free us? Hell no, they're not. I say let's knock it down, build it back up. And thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, sister. Folks, I don't, after hearing these sisters, I don't have to tell you the max issue. It's one thing to hear it from an activist's mouth. It's one thing to hear it from a lawmaker's mouth. It's a whole nother story to hear it from the mouths of those who are impacted the most. With that said, as we talked about on our show last month, the loss of a loved one matters, no matter how they transition. But losing your family member at the hands of someone else feels different. It hits different to an extent. Latoya Holly, sister of Anton Black, can you talk about how did you process the grief and still process the grief of your brother while your family still seek answers and still seek accountability?
It's difficult, especially when you have to continue to fight for justice. You're reliving it over and over and over again. You learn new information, of course. I recently learned some things that I did not know because I did not watch the body-worn camera. But I did read our parents' attorneys, of course, did a thorough review and broke it down bit by bit. A lot of similarities between what's happened to Tawanda's brother, George Floyd, Eric Garner. Similarities that stand out immediately to me is the fact that I can't breathe. That rings out. All of those men said that they couldn't breathe. Anton said he couldn't breathe. Officers said that he displayed superhuman strength. What do you expect when someone's fighting for their life? That boy was fighting for his life. He was chased by an officer that he knew had criminal misconduct, who had actually been tried and acquitted in the state of Delaware. That's why my mother kept referencing the Delaware officer, but he was a Greensboro police officer that basically just moved to another state, another town, since he could not work in the capacity of law enforcement where I live in the state of Delaware. They even said at the end, while my brother, after he was unresponsive, at the end of the video, I found out that they said That was a show. A show. How do you describe murdering a 19-year-old boy in front of his mother as a show? And my mother, she did reference being put in the back of that police car, and it's believed that Anton had died right there on the scene, and they were trying to cover it up and send him to the hospital and so forth, and that's why they wouldn't let him ride, well, wouldn't let her ride in the ambulance with him. Another thing I found, and I know that's not what you asked, Bobby, but I want to get some things out here. One of the officers involved, his brother drove the ambulance. I was floored when I learned that his brother, one of his brothers, drove my brother. He drove the ambulance to take my brother to the hospital. I mean, we've lost a lot. Anton, it's the first thing I thought about when I wake up in the morning, and the last thing I think about before I go to bed. Time has waned it a little bit where I might not think about him immediately when I wake up like I used to, but there's not a day, like Miss Darlene said, there's not a day that goes by that you don't think about your loved ones. I just know that who've been in this fight much longer than I have been, put it so eloquently when they say that we've all been initiated into a club that we did not ask to join. And I don't want anybody to join this club that we're in. It sucks. It sucks. The weight loss. I lost a lot of weight. I can definitely relate to Darlene. I had lost a lot of weight in a short period of time. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to, go to work. I missed time from work. I kind of locked myself in my bedroom for weeks upon time. And my husband's like, you can't let it consume you. And it was consuming me. It consumed me 100%. And then to lose another brother months later, just really grief stricken, I'm sure. I say my brother died of a broken heart, and he and Anton were extremely close. And my brother, to an extent, thought it should have been him, not Anton, because Anton, he had such potential. I mean, to outshine all 8 of his siblings, like he was on his way. Anton, anything he's put his mind to, he would go for it, and he would go get it, and he would work hard, and he would accomplish his goals. He didn't stop. He didn't let anything deter him. And I remember when my mother called me to tell me the night that he was killed, I sent her a voicemail because I was in the middle of doing something on my phone, and I'm like, oh, I'll call her later. She called me right back. I sent her a voicemail. She called me back again and called me back to back. And she was crying, and she said, your brother's dead. And I said, huh? Because I didn't understand. I'm like, what? Say it again. She's like, your brother's dead. And I'm like, my brother, what brother? Because, I have several brothers. And, my mind went through all of my brothers, and I didn't even think about Anton. He didn't even cross my mind as being one that she would be calling and telling me that he was dead. It's the only thing, and I don't really tell this testimony publicly. The only thing that gets me through it is my faith. That's the only thing to spare. I do contribute it specifically to Job 38, one of my favorite chapters in the Bible. And God led me to that chapter. And I challenge anyone to read it, and you'll understand why that helped me out. God kind of put things in perspective for me. He's talking in that chapter to Job. And it opened up a new understanding for me, and just to let go and say, well, there's nothing I can do to bring him back, but at least we can go ahead and fight to try to get justice for him and to try to prevent this from happening to other families. Because the one thing that you don't want to do is just to get that phone call and be drawn into this fight where hopefully we can get some of these laws in place and let our legislators hear our voices, to let them know that we're serious about change, and that it shouldn't always be the voices of activists that are family members or activists that are just part of different, different, I don't want to call it programs. I feel like I'm forgetting my words, but like the ACLU and other community active organizations that get involved and have attorneys involved. We also need to hear the voices of the people who haven't had this experience as well. Everybody's voice definitely matters. We want police reform is extremely important because we all know, as we're all brown people on this call, Black people on this call, it's working just like they intended it to, as far as policing concerned. The policing was for us. And it's the institution of policing has been working exactly how it's supposed to be working for hundreds of years now. And we need to change it. There definitely needs some changes. It's horrible. I don't even know how to put it in words. It affects everybody from young to old. Anton has a host of nieces and nephews. And yes, he has a baby girl. She'll never know her father. So that void will always be there for her, a loss. But he has a host of nieces and nephews that know him, that were 3, 4, and up when he was killed, and were noticeably affected. And children, they're actually going to the counselors, trying to. It's hard for them to go through school. He had nieces that were in college, that they had to kind of take a step back just to make sure that they could go finish their schoolwork because it was affecting their ability to actually do their schoolwork and focus in their classes and so forth. Anton has 2 grandmothers that have outlived him, that they're still with us. And, that's affected them as well. But, as parents, we don't expect that we're going to have to ever bury children. But, imagine the grandparents. You definitely don't believe that you're going to outlive your youngest grandchild. That's just something that's, we don't take into consideration, especially as we age. But I thank everybody for their support. Tawanda, I heard of your struggle about your brother right after Anton. It was brought to my attention. Richard Potter, he's a coalition member. He told me about you and what you were doing for your brother, and that you were out there trying to just be heard, because the coroner's report is crap. It's crap. Same thing, Eric Garner, your brother, excuse me, George Floyd, not Eric Garner, George Floyd, Anton, and your brother Tyrone, heart conditions. It was something about their heart, and each and every single one of them, allegedly. This is what killed them. These healthy men, otherwise healthy men, they all of a sudden, when they have interactions with the police, they're dying because they have these problems. Okay. I didn't believe it when I read it, and I still don't believe it to this day. It's just hiding behind what you did. It's cowardice. And then now the police officers involved are trying to play this qualified immunity game with us. They're trying to get everything dismissed. And that's part of the LEOBR that Davon was talking about earlier, that because no one's above the law. No one is above the law. And we've heard this on the news. If you heard recently about, other former politicians that are no longer in office that are under scrutiny and investigation. And I'm hearing people in the news talk about no one's above the law. And I'm like, well, yeah, we know that. And you're talking about a former president. How come no one's talking about this when it comes to the police departments that are killing our brothers and our sons and our daughters? Because there are some women too that are losing their lives as well. So,
to your point, Latoya, I definitely want to real quick, Tawanda. You took to the streets, Tawanda, very early. You family member supporters with speaking out about what happened to Tyrone. speaking truth to power, calling out, naming folks by names as you did, naming the officers that were involved with the death of your brother. And from afar, I was looking at this unfold. And I couldn't help but to see also that it seemed to me, from my eyes, to wonder your activism was part of you processing your grief, all of you, by not staying quiet, not fading to black, not just saying, you know what, I'm done with it, I'm gonna leave the scene. I just want to be done with this. And those who choose to do so, they have the right. But all of you, just the way your grief was processed was very, very unique in the fact that you turned it into activism. Tawanda, briefly, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so just like our sister Latoya just said, like it was really hard for me. It was to the point, this pain is so real, it actually tests my faith. I remember, like, once it came to pass, like when my brother was murdered, unfortunately, we didn't get that call no one wanted to get. It had not been for the grace of God putting it in me that something bad had happened to my brother. I'm the one that kept calling my family, like, oh my God, something bad happened to Tyrone, something bad happened. But it tested my faith. And once it came to pass, when I saw my brother's dead body on a gurney, and I saw the witnesses on the news saying how they had video footage and things like that, and that my brother didn't deserve that, I was like, I was over, and I said, God, well, how can you allow this to happen? Like, my brother wasn't perfect. I'm not perfect. But why my family? Why me? And all I remember, when I died that day, a big part of me died on July the 18th, 20 up off of my floor. I remember the God in me, and I remember God said, look, you didn't get that call. I was that call. I let you know something wasn't right. Your brother didn't suffer. It is now on to you. It's up to you now to make sure that not only we get accountability for your brother, but for all the brothers and sisters around the world. I'm sorry, this is what I chose you to do. And I did not understand that. Like, I went from, like, so I can relate to our sister Darlene when she lost Dale, when she said she lost weight. I didn't eat. I didn't want to be around nobody. I'm surprised I was.
Hold up, Tawanda, you went mute, sister. Tawanda, you went mute, sister.
How they made it isolated. I remember the first interview with the West family, and they're like, oh, well, how did Mr. West die? I'm like, oh, hell no. Before you start talking to my family, you need to interview Anthony Anderson's family first. Because I invited all the victims' family members there. I'm like, Anthony Anderson died a whole year before my brother was murdered. He was murdered in front of his mom. You're going to talk to us. And they're like, well, your brother was what we want to hear about. You might lose the interview. I don't give a damn about this interview. So I knew immediately they try to make these things seem isolated. So we're like, oh, hell no, you're not going to do this. And then the terminology that I was trying to rack my brains about, the term that our sister, we were trying to rack, it's called excited delirium. And I told them, when they took 154 days to give us this bullcrap autopsy report, I told them, y'all better dot every I and cross every T. You better not come back with no excited delirium foolishness when they wouldn't tell us what happened to my brother. So then they meeked it down and said, oh, well, he had a heart, same thing, but they wouldn't use that terminology. But that's the same terminology that they used in Antoine case, the same even in George Floyd case. I even reached out to George Floyd's brother via Twitter and Instagram and told them, don't let the medical exam. That's how they get them away clear with murder. So, like, to answer, I had to turn all of this pain into passion because I love my brother. Not only do I love my brother, I love all the men and women and the women that are affected by police, because a lot of women get killed by the police officers, and we won't dare say her name. You know, Corinne Gaines, our sister, India Kager. So a lot of women are murdered too. You know, it's just sad, but I just used all of my pain into power and to purpose, and like, no, enough is enough. And it still ain't enough, even to do a West Wednesday every week, even to be in Annapolis spending the night while they water down the bills. But I will never let this fight go. Never, ever, ever. Until they stop killing us, you will always see me. Until they kill me, till my coffin drop, I'm never going to stop.
Sister Darlene, real briefly, can you share how did you turn this tragedy into a fight? You established an organization, you got out in the streets, you got folks involved. How did that happen?
Well, first of all, I got tired of laying down, sleeping in my clothes, and doing nothing. And then I felt like I couldn't work. I said, how I'm going to work an 8-hour job at shock trauma, how I'm going to be on an ambulance a couple days of the week, and I'm not taking care of my own business for my son, and I'm not trying to get justice. So I had to let both of the jobs go. And then when I woke up one day, something kept saying mother's on the move. And I kept saying, I don't know what that is, but it sounded kind of good. So I wrote it on a paper. And after I wrote it down, somebody told me go downtown and get the trade name. And then this guy, he was like, you need a website. And I said, for what? Because I don't even know what I'm doing. And then somebody said, you need a business card. And I said, for what? I don't have a business. So that's when I finally, got myself together, got the 501c3 together. And I said, I gotta fight for Dale. I gotta be his voice. He is unheard. Nobody can hear what happened that night. Nobody's gonna tell me what happened. I'm not gonna go with the side of the police telling me, what happened. And then the detective told me on the phone that he would never lie to me. And I'm sitting here like, he would never lie to me. I already know. We all work together, and he never called me back. He wasn't going to tell me what happened to Dale. So I had to get out here. I had to get in the streets. And being in the streets and marching and meeting all these people, I found that we became like a big family. Everybody is like a big extended family that I fight with, because we all want the same fight with the same thing, which is accountability. And we're gonna get it, because more people coming out, more families coming out. Recent families, they're not gonna take it. They're not gonna lay down. They're gonna stand up and they're gonna fight, because we tired, and we not gonna, the community is not gonna allow them to continue to beat on our loved ones, kill our loved ones. It's not gonna keep happening. And like, we got the toughest mothers, we got the toughest sisters out here. And I mean, like, we are really, really, really warriors. I mean, like, we're not afraid. We're not afraid to back down. When it's time to testify, we there. When it's time to be present, we there. And like Tawanda said, snow, rain, hail, we don't care what the weather is, we hit the streets. And only because of the COVID is people are doing things on Zoom. But other than that, let me tell you, when this weather break, we're going to be back out there. You better know it. But because I turned 60 and I look around, and I said, I want to take good care of myself and my health, because you got to take time as an activist to take care of yourself. And I started DKing Health and Wellness, because you got to take care of yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this fight, but I'm going to pass this baton on, because we're going to have to train up other people to teach them how to fight and how to do this battle, because we're not going to be here forever. But I tell you, while we're here, we ain't gonna stop fighting. We're gonna continue with that fist. We're gonna keep it up. We're gonna fight back. And they're gonna remember these faces. They're gonna look at me, Tawanda, Latoya, her mother, and all these other mothers like Rain Gray Hopkins, Greta Willis, Rhonda Dormis. They're gonna look at us, and they're gonna know who we are the minute we stand in the room. Because they're gonna be saying, those some same ones that always show up. Every time they know when we come in the room who we are, and that's just how it's gonna be. Our presence is always going to be known, because we don't back down, and we show that we don't have any spirits of fear, because like they said, God, we believe in God, and because of Him and the faith, that's why we're doing what we're doing. And it takes a chosen person to do what we did. You think that I was gonna stop working? I knew my child was gonna get killed and die, and I was gonna be doing this. No, I had plans. I was doing my internship in the operating room. I was going to go to school. To work in the operating room. But then when my son got taken from me, all that just left. I forgot all about signing the papers at work. I forgot all about doing any kind of career. I was like, the only thing I'm going to do now is become an activist and be his voice and get out here and speak out. So that's what I do. That's what I'm going to continue to do. So I took my pain and turned it into a purpose. And then with that, 2-3 years ago, I did a fashion show called From Pain to Fashion. And what Pain to Fashion is, I had model for their loved one and memory of their loved one. And it was just something different, something fun to do, something to let our head down, something for us to have fun, because, you know, when your loved one died, you don't know when the next time, you don't think that you're going to laugh again. You don't think you're going to dance again. You don't even feel like you're even going to smile anymore. So when we did this fashion show, we had so much fun that it took our mind off of a lot of stuff just to, you know, just to have fun for that moment. But of course, at the end of the show, all of us got so emotional, you know, but it just something to keep them lifted and never to be forgotten. And like everyone says, you know, all our loved ones matter. And it's so sad that they're dying younger and younger by the hands of the law. Because you got to remember, they fathers too, they mothers, they got sisters and brothers, they have children. But until it happens to them, and somebody don't know that you're the officer's kid or you're somebody's child in law enforcement, then it's going to matter. Then they're going to want a law. But guess what? You know, they're going to have to join this fight that we're in, because they're going to have to get in line, because we already up there doing it. We already out there, and we're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to keep marching. We're going to keep speaking out. We're going to keep testifying. We're not going to stop. We're just going to continue. So that's what made me get my strength, is meeting people, traveling state to state, meeting other families. And I've met some real tough sisters, and I mean tough. And that built me up, because I was like a little quiet when I first started out. But then I started seeing some of these other sisters, and I started, like, you know, getting tough too. And I was like, you know what? That's right, because I'm not going to back down either. So, you know, I got a little bit tough along the way. You know, I got built up, and I got built up by other sisters hearing their stories. And I'm telling you, I can't even tell you, listen to one story to the other. I said, I've got to stay out here and keep doing it for the people who feel like they too weak to stand up. I can't do it. I can't this and that. Well, we're going to keep lifting up their family members' name all the time. And I always let all my friends know that whenever we out there, we lift their names up. Because they didn't go, we still going to lift their names up regardless. We do it all the time, every time. Just like right now, you know, so many of them, we'd be all night long. We'd be all night long because there's so many of us. And then what we doing right now, the ones that's out here, that's protesting, we like a grain of salt to the police. But I'm gonna tell you something, we bigger than that. We bigger than that, because we coming out in numbers, and we're not gonna stop and grow. And we're gonna keep on growing. And that's why I'm part of organizations like CJSJ. And that's why I support all the coalitions that's out here and all these activists that's out here. Because together we're gonna get this done.
Thank you, Sister Darlene. This show is not long enough. And I say thank you to those who are tuning in for being patient with us, because, you know, we had to give these sisters the platform that they so rightfully deserve. We have to keep in mind, we have a 24/7 news cycle that pushing another narrative about what's happening, and it's nonstop. And these are the voices that the public needs to hear. So for those who are tapping in, I thank you for giving these sisters grace and patience. Grace and patience. As y'all can hear and see, is definitely needed. I'm going to be respectful of all of y'all time. I'm gonna cut my questions very short. I ask moving forward, y'all can give real brief answers. Please forgive me, for putting the time on it. But I want to be respectful of all of your time and what all of you have to offer. Miss Black, I want to go to you. How did you get to the point where you say that you were ready to fight differently? How you were ready to elevate your voice and fight for justice for Anton?
Well, I have been watching and seeing that a lot of Black children being murdered just like a week before this happened with Anton. I was talking to him about it. I was watching Basketball Wives and how Malaysia brother was murdered in LA. And everything. Me and him watched it together. And I was like, Lord, I'm so sorry. I'm glad I never had to go through that or haven't been through that, not knowing a week later, I'm going through the same thing. You know, Anton, he was loved by everybody. He tried to help anybody. He would do anything, no matter what color you were, how old, how young. It did not matter. And what they did to him, it wasn't right. They lied, you know. I knew he was dead right there on my steps because I heard the officer say, "What time is it?" 7:46. Then 2 minutes later, another officer said, what time is it? 7:48. Next thing, they putting out the tape. So if my son is not dead, why are you putting up the tape? The murder tape. I'm mad, you know, and it's just not right. In Greensville, after this happened, I found out Anton's not the first person that this ever happened. I found out two people disappeared, one 20 years ago, another one 15 years ago. So this is not the first time that our Black family member or friends have disappeared in that town. You know, it's just a lie. Now, come on, kidnapping a child on foot?
Ms. Black, you pause. You pause for a second. Ms. Black.
Yeah. So how? Hello?
Yeah, we here. We here. Your screen paused for a second. Your video paused for a second. It froze. It's froze for a second. Real quick until she comes back. Latoya, right now a whole bunch of legislation is being considered by the Maryland General Assembly in terms of police reform. You heard Dave on the beginning of the show, where it seems like there's a back and forth, and there are lawmakers that are on the fence. Real quick, briefly, can you share what are your thoughts after we just had the 2020 election? Black folks, by and large, responsible for a lot of Democratic lawmakers being in office. And here we are, 2021. And we have Democrats, to be clear. And I'm not partisan, and this is not a partisan statement for Democrats or Republicans, but the reality is we have Democrats that are undermining efforts for real police reform. What are your thoughts on that, Latoya?
I was a little surprised, especially by one of the names that I thought was going to be really supportive. I'll call him out, Senator Will Smith. I was surprised that he actually voted with the Republicans. We've been on him, asking him, basically to be on board. I want to know if they're in the wrong party, first of all, because if you're going against what your constituents are asking you for, and for us to a certain degree, expecting some type of level of conformity as far as when we're asking for these laws to pass and you're actually voting with the other side, maybe you should change parties. I don't know how to say it more frank than that. I've always been a person that said that my mouth gets me in trouble, but like Darlene and Tawanda said, I've met a whole lot of women, and we are all in the same circle. And I'm telling you, these women are fierce. Their mouths are just as bad as mine. So I'm in good company. So I don't really hold any punches. And I think they should really be ashamed of themselves. Personally, I don't understand why you would be portraying yourself to be on one side, but then siding with the other side. I don't understand that. I don't know if it's for additional political aspirations. As we've seen before, you can switch parties and run for president. You know, it's happened. So I don't know. I wish they would actually just get together, pick a side and stay there so we know which ones, that we need to vote out. That's all I got to say about that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We're going to close out, but before we do, can each of you share what are the next steps? Not just during the legislative session, but beyond. I know the fight's going to continue. So can you share with listeners, can you share with folks, what are the next steps for Mothers on the Move? What are the next steps for the Coalition for Justice for Anton Black? What are the next steps for West Wednesdays? Where do we go from here? And also, how can folks support the work of all of you?
Okay, I'll say the next step is continue to have town hall talks with the community, keeping the community informed of each step of what's going on, and how after the legislation is over, that the work is not finished. Then we can continue to go above today and keep working on community relations and how we can get our communities back. And that's something that we can do. So Mothers on the Move, my website is dcain.org, and it's dcain.org. And continue to be there for the mothers, the sisters, the families, because when this happens, you're so fragile and you need somebody, and you need to continue letting people know that you're available. Continue to show up for them when their loved ones pass away, be at their candle lights. And like Tawanda say, we reach out to them on Facebook and Twitter, let them know that they're not alone. That's the next step. The next step is to keep letting these families know that we got each other's back, and that we're going to continue to give the resources to one another, to keep helping one another. And my next step is my book to come out, I Made It Through. I want somebody to know how I made it through all of this in my journal. So those are my next steps, and I hope to have a lot of support with that.
Dr. Tawanda, what's next?
What's next is, this is my cousin Tavon Anderson. Real quickly, he was murdered on a West Wednesday morning, January the 20th of this year, 2020. He was murdered. So next steps are for them to solve Tavon Anderson's crime, as well as hold Officer Ruiz, who currently, we showed a video at the beginning of West Wednesday. We want them held accountable ASAP. Along with the 11 and 15 other animals. I don't care if it takes 20, 30 years, which I pray to God it don't, because 8 is way too many. But no matter how long it takes, we're not going to stop until these killer cops for Antoine, for Dale Graham, Anthony Anderson, Kevin Cooper, the list goes on. Brain games. So all these killer cops on cell blocks is not over.
And where can folks reach you and connect with you and support your work, Tawanda?
Absolutely. They can reach me on Justice for Tyrone West page. They can reach me at Miss Tawanda .com, Miss Tawanda17 at yahoo.com. They can also reach me at West Wednesday anytime through any social media platform. And also, I want to connect with the sisters. If you could send them my information, I would greatly appreciate you. And thank you for doing the work for us, being our voice and helping put our voices out there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Black, Latoya, what's next?
I can take it, Mom. So we are definitely still trying to get all the officers involved held accountable for what they did to Anton. As I had said earlier, of course, they're trying to say qualified immunity and trying to get the judge to go ahead and dismiss at least the suit that our parents has right now. But seems like we're going to have to try to get the autopsy results overturned before we could even get the state's attorney, Joseph Riley, to go ahead and convene a I'm sorry, I forgot my words. The panel that actually would look to see if they would actually bring the police officers um, up on charges. I'm sorry, we all know the word. It's escaping me
All
for
right.
now.
It's all right.
Also, just continuing to fight. Um, I'm actually going to be hopefully working with some legislators in my own state. I'm in Delaware. They're mainly looking for criminal justice reform is like their main concern right now in Delaware. And I'm just letting them know you really need to look into the police reform because we have LEOBR here as well. And brothers are dying here as well. I recently heard of a sister speak that lost her brother just in January up in Newcastle County, Delaware. So it's not stopping. It's going from state to state. Um, so, like my niece would say, can't stop, won't stop, until my last breath, I'm just going to be fighting this fight with all the other women and any other brothers that are also involved in the fight and just stand in unity with them and solidarity and to hopefully together we can all affect change for people who were like myself who I saw the body worn cameras. I saw Eric Gardner. I said, what a shame. That's sad. I saw Mike Brown. I said, what a shame. That's sad. But when it hit home, when it was my brother, it was a whole different story and it shouldn't have been that way. And, I am ashamed of that to a degree that it took my brother losing his life for me to become active. And that's why I urge others, don't wait till it happens to you. Definitely your voice is important. Um, it will be heard. And there's nothing more sweeter than the sound of many, many voices singing the same song. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Folks, thank you for joining us this evening. Be sure to subscribe to Who Voices podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, be sure to visit us at our website at sonofadream.com to learn more about how our services and multimedia resources to support the healthy development of children, youth, and families. I want to thank all the families that participated this evening. I don't have to tell you all, y'all going to continue to fight. And I thank you so much for not only fighting for your families, you're fighting for my family, you're fighting for our communities. And I appreciate the work that you all are doing. God bless y'all. God bless everyone. Good evening. Take care.
Thank you.